moments away from discovering a truth that would turn my entire life upside down. It was a little past 6:30 when I walked into the kitchen after a long day in finance, exhausted and ready to start dinner. My 8-year-old daughter Lila had been unusually quiet for days, but I kept telling myself it was just school stress. As I reached for the cutting board, I heard soft footsteps behind me. When I turned around, Lila stood in the doorway wearing her pink bathrobe, her face pale and her eyes unfocused, as if she had not slept well in weeks. She tugged gently at my blouse and whispered the words that stopped my world. "Mom, can I stop taking the pills that Daddy's friend gives me?" For a second I could not breathe. A cold rush of fear spread through my chest. Daddy's friend, what pills? Why had I never heard of this? Lila lifted her eyes toward me, fragile and scared. "Mom," she said, "they were vitamins to help me study, but they make me so sleepy." In that moment I knew something was terribly wrong, and nothing in our lives would ever be the same again. Harper tried to steady her breathing as she guided Lila to the table. The kitchen smelled of onions and olive oil, but the familiar scent did nothing to calm the rising worry in her chest. For weeks she had pushed aside the small signs, convincing herself everything was fine. She blamed the new school projects, the colder weather, anything that seemed reasonable. But now the truth stood right in front of her in the shape of her trembling daughter. Harper had been stretched thin at work for months. As a financial analyst, quarter end always meant long hours, spreadsheets filled with endless formulas, and late nights staring at glowing screens. Some evenings she felt twice her age, shoulders tight and head pulsing, but she kept going because that was what she understood responsibility to be. Her husband, Grant Sullivan, had also been coming home at strange hours. He worked as a project manager for a construction firm, which meant unpredictable schedules. Harper told herself that long days and sudden meetings just came with his job. Still, she could not ignore the gut feeling that something had shifted. Grant no longer asked about her day. He no longer lingered in the kitchen while she cooked. Conversations were shorter, colder, almost practiced. And then there was Lila, the bubbly, sharp little girl who used to run through the front door every afternoon, ready to tell stories about her friends, her art class, or something funny her teacher said. Over the last 2 weeks she had grown distant. She spent more time in her room. Her eyelids drooped at dinner. She moved slower, as if her small body were carrying a weight too heavy for her age. Harper replayed Lila's trembling voice again and again. Daddy's friend. Pills. Sleepy. Something inside her finally clicked. This was more than school stress. This was a warning signal. And for the first time Harper realized she had no idea what was happening inside her own home. Harper knelt beside Lila, trying to keep her voice gentle even though panic pulsed beneath every word. "Sweetheart, can you show me the pills you were given?" She forced a smile, hoping her daughter would not sense the fear tightening her chest. Lila nodded slowly and slipped away toward her room. Harper stood frozen in the hallway, her mind spinning in 100 directions. Who was this friend from Grant's job? Why had she never met her? Why would anyone give her child something without even mentioning it to her? When Lila returned, she held a small white bottle in her hand. Harper took it carefully, studying it as if the plastic itself might reveal its secrets. The bottle had no brand, no instructions, nothing except a plain white sticker with one word scribbled in pen: vitamins. Her pulse quickened. Every instinct screamed that something was wrong. Lila sat down, twisting her fingers nervously. "Mom, Daddy's friend said I needed them so I could focus better at school. She said they would help my brain grow." Harper's stomach dropped. What friend? Lila swallowed hard. "Her name is Tessa. She comes when you are at work. Daddy lets her in. She gives me a vitamin, then tells me to rest so I don't distract them while they work." Harper shut her eyes for a moment. The pieces were not forming a full picture yet, but each one felt like a blow. Tessa, a woman she had never heard Grant mention, someone entering her home, interacting with her child, handing out pills as if she had any right. She opened her eyes and met Lila's frightened gaze. "Thank you for telling me, sweetheart. You did the right thing." Harper tucked the bottle into her pocket and pressed a kiss to her daughter's forehead. "Do not take anything else from anyone. Mom will take care of this." That night, after putting Lila to bed, Harper messaged her closest friend, Dr. Rowan Hayes, a pediatric specialist she trusted more than anyone in the world. "Rowan, I need your help urgently. Someone gave Lila pills. Can you check them for me tomorrow morning if possible?" The reply came almost instantly. "Bring them at 8. I will examine them right away." Harper exhaled shakily. Tomorrow she would know the truth, and she feared deeply that the truth would break her heart. The next morning, Harper arrived at the clinic before the doors even opened. She paced the hallway with the white bottle clutched tightly in her hand, feeling as though every second stretched into an hour. When Rowan Hayes stepped out in her lab coat, Harper felt a flicker of relief simply from seeing a familiar face. "Show me the pills," Rowan said without ceremony. Harper handed them over and watched as her friend opened the bottle, poured one tablet into her palm, and examined it with a practiced eye. Rowan held it under a small light, then brought it closer to her nose. Her expression shifted, subtly at first, then unmistakably. "This is not a vitamin." Harper felt her breath catch. "What is it?" Rowan glanced up, her voice low and steady. "It is a sedative, a strong one. It is used for adults with severe anxiety or sleep disorders. Children should never take this, not in small doses, not ever." Harper grabbed the back of a chair to steady herself. The room felt smaller, the walls too close. Rowan continued, her tone firm but compassionate. "If Lila has been taking these regularly, it could affect her memory, her concentration, even her development. It can cause dependency. It can dull parts of a child's brain that are still forming." Harper pressed a hand over her mouth. "Someone has been giving my daughter this." Rowan nodded. "This is not accidental. Someone knowingly handed a child a controlled substance." Harper's mind flashed back to Lila's pale face, her sudden exhaustion, the dark circles under her eyes. All the missed warnings she had dismissed. Rowan placed a reassuring hand on her arm. "You need to find out who this woman is, Harper. And you need to treat this as what it is. A serious crime." Harper inhaled shakily. She understood. Whatever this was, it was no longer simply about betrayal or suspicion. It was about protecting her daughter from someone dangerous. And she would not hesitate another second. Harper stepped out of the clinic with the bottle of pills buried deep in her purse, her fingers trembling as she zipped it shut. The world outside felt too loud, too bright, as if nothing around her matched the storm building inside her chest. She knew one thing with absolute clarity: she needed proof, real proof, and she needed it fast. On her lunch break, she walked into an electronics store and asked the young clerk for the most discreet hidden camera they carried. The clerk led her to a shelf of small devices that looked like ordinary household items. One in particular caught her eye, a charger with a built-in lens no bigger than a pinhead. "Does it record to the cloud?" she asked. The clerk nodded. "You can watch live on your phone or download recordings anytime. The audio is clear too." Perfect. Harper bought it without hesitation. When she returned home later that afternoon, Grant was still at work. The house was quiet, almost sterile in its stillness. Harper plugged the charger camera into an outlet facing the living room and tested the angle through the app. She could see the front door, the couch, the hallway, every place someone would walk, every place someone might hand her daughter a pill. The video was sharp, the audio clean. For the next few days, Harper sent Lila to stay with her mother, Evelyn, telling Grant that Evelyn wanted extra time with her granddaughter. Grant did not question it. If anything, he seemed relieved. Harper moved through those days as if living two separate lives, outwardly calm, inwardly counting the hours until she would know the truth. She checked the camera app constantly, heart jumping at every notification. 3 days felt like 3 months. All she needed was for that woman to step into her home one more time. On Thursday afternoon, Harper sat at her desk pretending to review numbers on a spreadsheet while her phone lay beside her, screen dimmed but heartbeat loud. At 1:30, the camera notification finally appeared. Motion detected. Her pulse surged. She opened the live feed with shaking hands. Grant stepped through the front door, not alone. A young woman followed closely behind him. She had long dark hair, fitted jeans, and a cropped leather jacket. She looked confident, comfortable, entirely at home in a place she had no right to be. Tessa Monroe. A. Harper's stomach clenched. On screen, Tessa wrapped her arms around Grant's waist as if she had done it 100 times before. He leaned down and kissed her without hesitating, in Harper's living room, on her rug, only feet from where Lila played with her toys. Harper covered her mouth, the betrayal slicing deeper than she expected. She forced herself not to look away. Grant uncorked a bottle of wine and poured 2 glasses. They sat on the couch, laughing softly. Harper turned on the audio, needing to hear the truth directly from their mouths. Lila is with your mom again, right? Tessa asked, so we have the whole afternoon. Yeah, Grant said. Harper will not be home until 7, we are good. Tessa traced a finger along his arm. I missed you. We barely saw each other this week. Me too. I hate sneaking around. I want to be with you openly. Soon everything will change. I just need time. Tessa smiled, but her words held a sharper edge. You promised you would get a divorce, Grant. I am not going to stay in the shadows forever. Grant nodded. I know. I just do not want to hurt Lila. Hurt her, Harper whispered under her breath. The irony tasted bitter. As if the emotional blow were not enough, the recording from earlier in the week delivered an even deeper wound. Harper watched Tessa kneel in front of Lila, pulling the white bottle from her purse. She called it a vitamin. She told Lila she needed to rest. 10 minutes later, her daughter was slumped on the couch, unconscious. Grant glanced at his sleeping child and did nothing. Not one question, not one moment of concern. Harper paused the video, her vision blurring. She had braced herself to find signs of an affair. She had not prepared to witness her daughter being drugged while her husband stood by, ignorant or indifferent. She took a long, shaky breath. The truth was out now, and nothing in their marriage could ever be salvaged again. The next morning, Harper walked into attorney Marla Davenport's office carrying a folder pressed tightly against her chest. It held everything she had gathered so far: the pill bottle, screenshots from the camera app, and printed bank statements she had spent half the night reviewing. Her hands trembled, but her resolve did not. Marla greeted her with a steady, experienced calm. She was in her mid-50s, sharp-eyed, and known in the city for handling high-conflict divorces with precision. Sit down, Harper. Tell me everything. Harper did. She told her about the pills, about Rowan's findings, about the recordings, and about the other woman's presence in her home. She spoke until her voice cracked, until every truth she had been holding inside finally spilled into the room. Marla listened without interrupting, taking notes in quick, decisive strokes. When Harper finished, the attorney leaned back and folded her hands. You have a strong case, she said. The kind that judges pay attention to. We are dealing with 3 major issues here: marital infidelity, dissipation of marital assets, and, most importantly, reckless endangerment of a minor. Harper swallowed. What do I need to do? For now, keep gathering evidence. Record anything that shows this woman entering your home. Document your daughter's condition. And save every transaction your husband made that is unrelated to your household. If he used marital funds on Tessa, the court can require reimbursement. Harper opened the folder and revealed the first set of statements. I found transfers. Weekly ones. Restaurants we never visited. Jewelry stores. A hotel charge from a weekend he claimed he was at training. Marla nodded. That strengthens your position. Judges take financial misconduct seriously. Harper hesitated. And the pills, what happens with that? Marla's voice softened, though her words remained firm. That is not just a family matter. It is criminal. When the time is right, you will take your evidence to the police. They will determine charges for the woman who drugged your daughter and evaluate whether your husband bears any responsibility. Harper exhaled. For the first time in days, she felt anchored. She was no longer drifting blindly through fear. She had a plan, and she would follow it to the end. By Monday, Harper had reached her limit. She could not wait for another recording, another moment of helplessness. She needed the authorities involved. With Marla's guidance, she walked into the local precinct carrying a flash drive, the pill bottle, and a written timeline of everything she had gathered. Detective Nolan Pierce, a composed man with graying hair and steady eyes, reviewed the evidence in silence. When he reached the footage of Tessa handing Lila the pill, he paused and looked up. This is enough to initiate an investigation. But if you want us to catch her in the act, we will need your cooperation. Harper nodded immediately. Tell me what you need. We need Lila home when the woman comes again. We need her to ask for the pills. When the suspect attempts to give one to your daughter, our team will move in. Harper felt a wave of fear crash through her. Lila had already endured too much. But the detective's tone was gentle when he added, we will be in the hallway. She will not swallow anything. She will not be in danger for even a second. That evening, Harper sat with Lila on her bed, speaking softly while smoothing her daughter's hair. Sweetheart, the pills you were given were not safe. They were not vitamins. They made you sleepy because they were strong medicine for adults. Lila's eyes widened. I did not know. I know, Harper whispered. and you did nothing wrong. But we need to make sure no one else gets hurt. Tomorrow, you will come home after school. If Tessa is there, I need you to ask for another pill. But you will not take it. The police will take care of the rest." Lila was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded with a bravery far beyond her 8 years. "I can do that, Mom. If it keeps other kids safe, I can do it." The next afternoon, Harper sat at her desk pretending to work, her phone placed directly in front of her. At 2:30, the notification appeared. Motion detected. Harper opened the live feed instantly. Grant was home, and not long after, Tessa walked in, laughing, brushing her hand along his chest. Grant looked uneasy. "Harper has been asking questions. Are you sure these pills are harmless?" Tessa waved him off. "They are just vitamins. Stop worrying." Harper felt her jaw tighten. Moments later, the front door opened again and Lila stepped inside. The little girl set her backpack down and walked into the living room, glancing toward the camera exactly as Harper had told her. She approached Tessa. "Can I have another vitamin? I liked how it made me sleep." Tessa brightened and reached into her purse. And the moment the pill touched her palm, the apartment door burst open. "Police hands visible now, do not move." Tessa screamed as officers swarmed the room. Grant stumbled backward, hands raised, eyes wide in shock. Detective Pierce grabbed the pill from the floor and secured it in an evidence bag. "Tessa Monroe, you are under arrest for administering a controlled substance to a minor." Lila stood frozen until an officer gently guided her aside. Harper watched it all unfold through the screen, tears sliding silently down her face. It was over. And the truth, at last, stood fully exposed. 2 days after the arrest, the investigation moved quickly. Detective Pierce confirmed that the pills were a powerful sedative from the benzodiazepine fine, a substance never meant for children. Tessa admitted she bought them online without a prescription. Her motive was simple and selfish. She wanted Leela unconscious so she could spend uninterrupted time with Grant. Grant insisted he never knew the pills were dangerous. He repeated that Tessa told him they were harmless vitamins, but ignorance did not erase the reality of what had happened under his roof. It did not erase the fear in Lila's eyes or the nights Harper spent wondering if her daughter had been harmed more deeply than anyone could see. With Marla's guidance, Harper filed for divorce. The evidence was overwhelming. Records showed thousands of dollars spent on Tessa. Weekend trips disguised as work travel. Jewelry purchases never meant for Harper. Bank transfers labeled vaguely but traceable to Tessa's account. In court, Grant did not deny the affair. He did not fight for the house or the savings. Perhaps guilt weighed on him, or perhaps reality had finally caught up. The judge awarded primary custody of Leela to Harper. She would live with her mother full-time. Grant would have visitation twice a month, supervised in the beginning, until the court felt Lila was ready for independent visits. Harper sold the marital home and stayed temporarily with her mother, Evelyn, whose warm kitchen and steady presence helped create a sense of safety Lila had not felt in months. Together, Harper and her daughter began searching for a new place to call their own. They eventually found a modest but sunny 2-bedroom condo. It was not large, but it belonged entirely to them. They painted Lila's room a soft lavender, hung new curtains, placed stuffed animals along the bed, and filled the space with light. To help Lila heal, Harper adopted a gentle mixed-breed dog from a local shelter. Lila named him Finley. The first time Finley curled up beside her, Lila smiled freely, for the first time since everything began. Their new life was humble, quiet, and healing. And for Harper, that was enough. As autumn settled into the city, Harper finally felt herself breathing a little easier. The nights were still difficult, and some mornings Lila woke from dreams she could not quite remember, but overall their home felt calmer, safer. Finley trotted alongside them through this new chapter, his presence comforting and steady. One early evening, Harper took Finley for a walk around the neighborhood. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of wood smoke and fallen leaves. As they turned the corner near the community park, Finley suddenly tugged forward, tail wagging wildly. A large husky with bright blue eyes bounded toward them, followed closely by a tall man in a lightweight jacket. The dogs greeted each other instantly, sniffing and circling as though they had been friends forever. "Sorry about that," the man said, catching up with a warm smile. "Luna gets overly excited when she meets someone new." Harper shook her head. "No apology needed. Finley is the same way." They chatted while the dogs played, and Harper learned his name was Alex Mercer. He lived in the building next door, worked as a civil engineer, and walked Luna every evening around this time. There was something grounded about him, something easy in the way he spoke. No rush, no pressure. Over the next few weeks, their paths crossed again and again, at first by coincidence, later by quiet intention. They found themselves walking the dogs together, sharing stories about work, childhood memories, and the messy but honest parts of rebuilding a life after disappointment. Harper noticed how gentle Alex was with Lila the first time she joined them. He did not force conversation or attempt to impress her. He simply treated her with respect, answering her questions with patience and letting her warm up at her own pace. Lila responded to this without hesitation. There was no grand spark or dramatic moment. Instead, there was a slow, steady unfolding of trust. By the time spring arrived, Harper felt a shift inside her. It was not dramatic or sudden. It was quiet, like the way daylight slowly grows longer without anyone noticing the exact moment it changes. Her life was no longer defined by fear or betrayal. Instead, it was shaped by small, steady moments of safety. Her relationship with Alex deepened naturally. They never rushed anything. They built something based on conversation, kindness, and respect. He never tried to overshadow her or replace the role of a father in Lila's life. He simply became someone dependable, someone who showed up. When Lila caught a bad cold one winter night, Harper remembered how Alex arrived at their door with medicine, soup, a stack of picture books, and a stuffed rabbit he said reminded him of his childhood. He read stories until Lila's breathing softened, then stayed to help Harper clean the kitchen and fold laundry. He did not call attention to any of it, he simply acted with care. 2 years after the divorce, on a warm June afternoon, Harper and Alex married in a small courthouse ceremony. No elaborate decorations, no large guest list, just Harper, Lila, Alex, and Evelyn standing together in a quiet room filled with sunlight. A year later, Harper gave birth to a healthy baby boy they named Rowan. Lila became the most devoted older sister, reading to him, holding his tiny hands, and singing softly whenever he fussed. Their home was not perfect, but it was whole. It was built on honesty, steady love, and the courage to start again. And Harper finally understood that healing did not mean forgetting. It meant choosing a future where the past no longer dictated her life. Looking back, Harper often wondered how close she came to missing the warning signs. A tired child, a strange shift in behavior, a bottle labeled only as vitamins. It would have been easy to overlook, easy to trust the wrong person, but sometimes life hinges on a single question asked at the right moment. Her story is not just about betrayal, it is about the courage to protect what matters, even when the truth is painful. It is about walking away from what breaks you, refusing to settle for a life built on lies, and choosing instead to build a future grounded in safety and love. The lesson is simple but powerful. Pay attention. Trust your instincts. And when the moment comes to stand up for yourself or your child, do it without hesitation. Healing does not erase the past, but it gives you the strength to create a life where the past can no longer hurt you. If this story moved you, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who might need it, and tell me in the comments where you are watching from. Your support helps me bring more real-life stories to the Art of Revenge.